Welcome to the Paranormal Stakeout radio TV show with Larry Lawson. As a former career law enforcement officer and law enforcement educator, Larry focuses on the use of tried and true law enforcement investigative techniques in conducting paranormal investigations. Despite his experience and training, Larry also keeps an open mind to discussions on topics that deal with evidence that are not quite as physical in nature. Paranormal Stakeout guests are professionals in the field of the paranormal and parapsychology, conducting the investigations and research needed to further the cause of paranormal study. Larry advocates an agenda of standardization of structure and training in the field of paranormal investigation and research for the purpose of one day being able to produce the evidence needed to convince a jury of the existence of the paranormal. Whether it is ghosts, UFOs, unsolved mysteries, hauntings or cryptids, no topic is beyond the investigative reach of Larry Lawson and the Paranormal Stakeout radio TV show team. Now, here is the host of the Paranormal Stakeout radio TV show, Larry Lawson.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Paranormal Stakeout. I'm your host, Larry Lawson, coming to you from the command post of the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigation and Indian River Hauntings in beautiful Vero Beach, Florida. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about us, please check us out at IndianRiverHauntings.com, ParanormalFBI.com. You can also check me out here on the X Zone at go sky at paranormalstakeout.org. You can get a hold of me there, send me some notes if you'd like me to answer some questions or you've got some comments about the show. Also, paranormalstakeout.org will take you directly to my website on the channel. So it's great to be back here. The summer's starting to break down here in Florida. The heat's been a little bit better over the last few weeks, but like the rest of the country, we've all been scorched. Want to send my best to everybody up in Canada with the fires they've had. And they just got hit by that hurricane. And also, please keep in mind our friends and families out in Hawaii on Maui. So keep that in mind. Tonight, got an interesting show for you. We're going to be delving back into the world of the psychic-intuitive. My guest tonight is Lindsy Milne. Robert is a psychic-intuitive counselor, teacher, healer, and life coach. He's recognized across the continent as one of the most insightful psychic intuitive counselors of the time. At a very young age, he realized his psychic gifts and started his first job working as a psychic, doing intuitive readings at a place called the Cozy Tea Room. And we're going to ask him about that place. And that's in beautiful Toronto. He's traveled all over the world, giving insight with his psychic intuitive sessions to tens of thousands of people, and has become recognized across the continent as one of the most insightful counselors of his time. He's also worked with police and the Canadian Secret Service, helping to gather intel and work on missing persons. And we're going to really want to talk about that a little bit. With that, I'd like to welcome to the show Robert Milne. Rob, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you. I've been looking forward to talking with you, and thank you for the service and the work that you're doing. It's fascinating.
Well, it's it was a long time. I did my time on the job, and now I'm trying to figure out this new mystery in our society.
I was including the new part of your life, this part too, as well.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Thank you. Well, for some of my guests that might not be familiar with your work, can you share with us a little about who Robert Milne is?
Well, Robert Lindsy Milne.
Lindsy Milne.
I have been a professional psychic coming this January for 59 years. And I started working at the Cozy Tea Room when I was 15 and a half years old. And I was homeless. And I was surviving on the street by my instincts, intuition, and psychic ability. I had demonstrated psychic awareness and psychic abilities at a very young age. So it wasn't a surprise that I was using my instincts to survive. And I heard that if you worked at the Cozy Tea Room, in those days, doing readings was against the law. You could get arrested for it.
was going to ask you about that. I'd like to know more about that.
Well, that law got appealed. I think it was July 1st, 2019. So that was when we were allowed to do readings and get paid for it. And the other thing that happened was cannabis got legalized on the same day. I don't know if there's any connection there, but
coincidence, maybe. Yeah.
Same thing. I don't know. So when I heard that if you worked at the Cozy Tea Room doing tea leaf readings and card readings, in the afternoon you would get a sandwich, a cup of tea, and some cookies, and you would get paid. And if you worked in the evening, you would get a hot meal, sandwich, cookies, cup of tea, and you'd also get paid. And I applied there, and I told the woman, I told her my name, and I came down and auditioned for the interview was doing a reading. And I had never done a tea leaf reading. I didn't have any idea what to do, nor had I ever read cards. I had no idea, but I am. And then I was a psychic, and I still am. And I held the teacup in front of me, and I started doing a regular reading, or how I would give information to people, pretending I was looking at the tea leaves. And then I put the cards on the table, and I had no idea what the 7 of Hearts meant. So, but I would point to it and but share my psychic feelings. I started working that day.
So it wasn't the tea leaves of the cards. It was your own psychic ability that you're reading. And
I just had to have another way of doing it, because there's a sign on the wall that said all readings are complimentary and are done for entertainment purposes.
So that's how you got around the law.
That's how it was. That's how people got around the law.
Okay.
And I started working there, and I worked there for about 6 years. And I worked 5 days a week, sometimes 6. And on Sundays, most of the times we would go out to private parties and do readings. So I was working 5 and 6 days a week, every day during that time.
Let's back up a little bit. When did you first recognize that you had this gift? How old were you?
When I identified it, I was around 10 years old. I was seeing things and then getting in trouble for it. One day I was coming home from school. I was about 5 or 6. And I said to my mother, "Grandma Harris died today." And by the way, Grandma Harris was my great-grandmother, not my grandmother. And she was living in England, and I was in Toronto. And my mother got angry with me and punished me in some way for saying bad things. And that was confusing to me. That evening, or the next evening at dinner, my mother said to my father, "Grandma Harris died yesterday." And I thought my father was going to be angry with my mother for saying bad things. But to my astonishment, they just talked about it. But yet I got punished for saying bad things. And it was like that. One time when I was about 8 or 10, something like that, we went to a Stanley Cup hockey game. And it was Boston and Toronto, and it was the semifinal. And the score was tied at the end of the third period. And when the teams came on the ice for the first overtime period, I knew number 17 with the Toronto Maple Leafs was going to score. I just knew it. He wasn't, and his name was Gary Eman. And anyway, as the game was about to start in Maple Leaf Gardens, and there's 18,000 people watching, and the lights went down, I couldn't hold the words in my mouth any longer, and I jumped up and started yelling and screaming and cheering because Gary Eman was going to score the overtime goal. Gary Sheeman wasn't on the ice, and everybody turned and looked at me and my dad. And he just said, sit down. Anyway, 3 minutes later, Eamon came on the ice and tipped the puck in the net and scored the overtime goal. And it was then that I knew other people weren't seeing what I was seeing. That was when it happened.
Now, you mentioned that when you started working at the Cozy Tea Room, you made mention of being homeless.
Yes.
How did that play into all of this?
I came from a remarkably abusive background, and a couple of different times I ran away, and I lived on the streets during that time. So that's how it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And my first time was 14 and a half.
Okay. Go ahead and finish.
I was also about to say that my psychic abilities were honed in survival on the street. Mm-hmm. And so whatever awareness or psychic ability I had as a child, when I was on the street, they were even the lessons were even more important or more severe. And during that time, when I was in trouble or having difficulties, I was always presented with an option. I could use my intuition, my psychic ability, or I could do something that would be illegal or immoral. And almost always, I chose to use my intuition or psychic ability to solve the problem.
Mm-hmm. In what way? I don't know if you can give me an example. Were you able to see?
Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
No, please ask your question.
No. I just did it give you a direction? Did it say, you need to go to this place, or you need to turn this corner, or talk to this individual?
Or be in the right place at the right time, be where there's food, things like that. That's how. And I almost always use those instincts, and I was always ready to work as well. Mm-hmm. And I also did readings or gave information to people in those days also. And on a couple of occasions, I certainly had to do things that I wouldn't have, wanted to if it wasn't survival. But almost always, I used my intuition. And during that time, I never stole anything. Actually, I didn't do that until I was in my 50s. But I spent my whole by the way, the reason that I did it in my 50s is because I wanted to know what it felt like to steal something. Because I had never done that. Well, I'm a believer in what you do one way, you must do equally the opposite. And I also believe that the purpose of life is to experience. That's it. Okay. And so, and we have free choice and free will to experience anything we want. The rule with free choice or free will to do anything that you want. Do you want to go ahead? Jump in.
Yeah. No, I got to, because we got to take a break. First 13 minutes is already run. So we're going to pick this up on the other side.
All right.
So folks, stay with us. Robert Lindsy Milne, my guest tonight. Stay with us. We'll be back after these messages. And we are back on Paranormal Stakeout. My guest tonight, Robert Lindsy Milne, a psychic-intuitive counselor. Got a lot of questions to ask you, but probably let me start off with this one. Psychic-intuitive counselor, to folks that might not completely understand what that means. Can you give a quick definition?
Well, I always called myself a psychic after I left the tea rooms. As time wore on, the younger psychics coming up, the New Agers, thought that being called a psychic was something bad or old-fashioned or whatever. and everyone was getting all these fancy titles that they were giving themselves, and I just decided, okay, so instead of just being a plain old psychic, I'll be a psychic intuitive counselor or a psychic intuitive. That's why it is.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
Well,
I am a simple, straightforward. I'm into the fundamentals of the craft. Vince Lombardi was a fundamentalist. He'd start every season at the beginning with all the football players around him. He'd hold the football up and say, "Gentlemen, this is a football." And they started from the fundamentals and built upward. And when people allow themselves or want to become psychic, because almost everybody can be, when you learn the fundamentals of being psychic, you then can do pretty much anything when you know the fundamentals.
right. Understood. Now, you were going when we were just before the break. You had mentioned a little bit about stealing stuff and experiencing other things. As a cop, I got to be honest with you, that's a little that's a little tougher for me to swallow, only because of my background. I think, understand where you're coming from.
I'd be glad to explain it a bit more.
Sure, please do.
Okay, so I'm not advocating committing any crimes.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm looking at is things overall. And when we're on this planet, in this solar system, there are things that are fundamentals. And one of the fundamentals is we're here to experience. We have free choice and free will to do anything we want. But in this reality, there's accountability. I didn't say you could do something and get away with it. I just said you have free choice and free will.
Understood.
There is accountability. Okay. So the rule with you can do whatever it is that you want, what goes with it is you must experience the opposite. So in order to know good, you must know bad. In order to know what's right, sir, Mr. Policeman, right? You also have to know what's wrong. So we need to know the opposite. You can't have a one-sided line. Okay, so that's all it is.
Yeah, and I understand the concept. I don't know. I don't know that I completely agree with you. I don't need to know stealing is wrong, but I get where you're coming from as far as experience.
Just hold on. I went through 52 or 53 years of never stealing anything and living on the streets. And one time, as a mature man, never experiencing what it was like to take something, I set up a situation where I would steal something, but I also came back the next day and paid for it.
Okay. Well, I understand what you're trying to describe me. I don't know that I agree with you, but we can move on from that. That's getting back to.
Go ahead. How many times have you stolen?
Me?
Yeah.
Never.
Never once? Ever?
No, sir. No.
Wow. Okay.
No. No. No, I have not. But that's just me. And we're all different. Now, want to move on a little bit into more
being psychic more. Yeah.
I want to talk about your philosophies. What you think this phenomenon is on the other side. What is it we're dealing with when you're getting these impressions, somebody contacting you from the other side? What is your philosophy of what this is?
I don't have a philosophy about that.
Oh.
I'm as I said, I'm very simplistic, and
Mhm.
I'm focused on the fundamentals. I'm interested in the answer. I don't care how I get to the answer. I look for the answer, and
Mhm.
I don't put a label on it. I traveled around the world appearing on radio and TV call-in shows,
Mhm.
and I, uh, I just got thrown off track here. I'm just I have a natural talent, ability, and awareness. What I'm focused on is solving the problem.
Mhm.
Um, I have the awareness that I can sense and feel things that are going to happen. I've done it more than 100,000 times in my professional career and over 59 years.
Mhm.
And I'm just got stumped here for a second. It's really crazy. Um,
I guess what
so
I get. Go ahead.
Well, I don't put a label on what I do, except I do psychic readings. And when I was looking for a lost person, I didn't care whether I was using the ability to project my mind. I'm sorry, to remote view, or was I just being psychic? It didn't matter because I looked for the solution, and as I was growing up, I never learned any words about what they were called.
Mhm.
I just simply did it.
I
That's
guess what I'm getting at, and maybe
yeah.
this is the detective in me here, trying to figure out this puzzle. What is it on the other side that's providing you with information, i.e., and I'd love to talk a little bit more about your work with the Canadian Secret Service as well as law enforcement, finding folks. So my interpretation is somehow you're getting that information from the other side. So I was just wondering where you thought that information may be coming from. For example, I've spoken to psychics before that believe that it is all the result of a collective mind. For example, when we leave, our spirits go to a collective type of giant ball in the sky, and our souls come in and out of there. I've heard several different philosophies, so that's why I was kind of wondering if you had given any thought, or if you knew where you were getting this information.
I don't know what's on the other side. And I don't know what will happen there. What I know is I can take care of the problem or difficulty in front of me and
Mhm.
help the person in front of me. So I'm that focused on and giving information to them and how they can get over whatever it is that they go through. When
Mhm.
I do a reading for someone at this time, I see their life from conception to completion.
Mhm.
Now, I don't see either like the pictures, but I see the timeline. And when I do a reading for someone, I move forward and backward in time in
Mhm.
their life. And I talk about the different times and phases. The readings I do are more of a monologue rather than a dialogue.
Mhm.
So, and I ask people not to interrupt me until the reading's completed. So it's a monologue mostly. And I don't ask questions, I just give the information. And I was the first Canadian psychic to do an open line phone call show. And I was able to, with the person telling me their first name, where they were calling from, and I would say, have a question prepared, but please don't ask it. Have it written down.
Mhm.
And when
Mhm.
they come on, my name is Mary from such and such a place, I would say, thank you, and then just start talking. And I would talk for about a minute or a minute and a half. And then I'd say, Mary, or whatever the person's name was, what would you like to ask? And about 8 or 9 calls out of 10, that was what they were looking to hear. And then they would ask another question or a different one. Sorry, they had the opportunity to ask another question after that. I would do things like, and incidentally, I have recordings of that type of performance in shows that I've been on in the last couple of years. I would say, okay, so, and in my early days, telephones were attached to the wall. Someone would call in, my name is George, and I'm calling from, this is an actual call, I'm calling from such and such a place. And I said, George, you're in your living room now. Is that correct? Yes or no? Yes. You're holding the phone with your left hand. Yes or no? Yes. Turn your head to the right a little more. Look straight ahead from there. Is that where the window, the main living room window is? Yes. Look above the window. Is that where it's cracked? Yes. So I do things in those shows that way. Where does it come from? I don't care. I'm getting the information and giving the answer. Now that's a psychic performance. I do the same type of thing when I tune into, connect, and sense energy for that person.
Question for you,
If I may
ask. Do you bring people that you're doing a reading for? Do you bring back somebody from their past, a past relative, to give them information?
I'm not a medium. I don't deal with spirits specifically. Again, what I do, I'm a psychic intuitive. I sense, I feel, I see, I'm aware. I do gentle, loving, kind things. And I give really beautiful psychic readings.
Okay. And once again, from somebody that's not with the gift, my belief.
See that it's not a gift. It's a talent that almost everybody has. Almost everybody has. And what I teach my students is the first thing about being psychic is become aware of what's obvious. Look at the person. When you become aware of what's obvious, then more becomes obvious again. And as you become more aware of what's obvious, you get to a point where
I gotta put you on hold. We're at our 13 minutes. In fact, I'm over. So folks, a little over, stay with us. Robert Lindsy Milne, we'll be back right after these messages. And we are back with my guest, Robert Lindsy Milne, Psychic-Intuitive Counselor. So this is interesting for me, Robert, because this, from what you're telling me, all psychics do not have contact with spirits on the other side, which is not something I grasp. So
you've put words into my mouth. I didn't say that at all.
Okay, then correct me.
I didn't say that at all. I said the way I do my work, I'm a fundamentalist. It doesn't matter how I get to the answer. I look for the answer, and I get a lot of them. So it's not important to me to have a title, a name, or a way of doing it. I'm focused on the answer. Early in my career, I was in my 20s when I was touring. I bumped into a man in London, Ontario, and he was about as old as I am now. I'm 74. And he had been a court stenographer. And I said to the guy, wow, that's fascinating. How many words a minute can you write? And he said, I don't know. I said, well, what do you mean you don't know? He said, I write what they say. So I thought about that. And yes, focus on the answer. It doesn't matter how fast. get the answer. So in that moment, this isn't a math test. In a math test, you have to show the teacher how you got the answer. But if you just write the answer down, you get no points. Once again, my job is finding the answer. And that's what I focus on.
And that's a great point. But and this goes into something I like to talk to everybody about how we can protect folks that we're helping from charlatans, because there's a ton of them out there. But this kind of goes into that. You've got to be right, because if you're helping somebody, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I assume people will come to you for advice on what they should do or what the direction they should take. Would that be correct?
I give them information on how they can make their own decision. Okay. I very, very seldom ever say you should do this.
Okay, fair enough.
Once again, I believe in free choice and free will, and I'm very focused on being positive. The motto in my podcast is, do good, stay safe, and above all, just be kind. And I spend a lot of my life just being kind. So I would choose the positive information, but it's not for me to make a judgment on what they do.
And that's fair. But the folks do, I mean, with my team, since we look at the buildings that may have activity in them, and folks come to us for help. Can you find out what's going on here? Of course, we're not psychic intuitives. We can't we can't change things. We can just find information. But people.
By the way, Larry, I'd also just like to point something out, that I do things that no other psychic alive does.
And that is?
I guarantee my work. If I do a reading for you, I guarantee absolutely that if you're ever I absolutely guarantee my work for as long as I'm alive or you. And if for any reason the reading I did for you was not up to your value, or you felt you got a good choice, I just give you back your money. And if I did a reading for you, and I could have done it 20 or 50 years ago, and you'd come to me and say, hey, Robert, that reading you did for me, it was crap, 37 years ago. Oh, okay, here's your money back. Just like that.
And I can really appreciate that. But what I was getting at is
I was pointing out the values that I work at.
And
you're talking about, I don't hang out with psychics very much. And I think that yes, indeed, there are thieves in every business or everywhere you go. Okay.
Including mine.
Hasn't that been your job? So I don't hang around that much with others, psychics. But when in this field doing readings, if you do a bad reading or you have a clash with somebody, you're not having a bad day, or you're not you can't connect with everybody. Usually what happens is the this disgruntled client says, oh, that person's a fraud. And that happens so much. So we don't very often get the opportunity to make it right. It's easy to say that's that fraud.
That goes back to the original question I was going to ask you a few minutes ago. Don't we have a responsibility to get it right? And here's where I'm going with this.
I'm sorry. Get what right?
Get right. Whatever we're telling the folks that we're trying to help, because they're coming to us. They're in a state of wonderment. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to turn. Maybe they're upset. And I've seen it, at least on my side of the house. Folks will go in and they will tell somebody A, B, and C is happening in your house. Okay. And they're wrong. And because they're wrong, they cause more harm to a person that maybe they had some other mental health issues. And that answer that was given to them caused them more harm. So don't we have an obligation to get it right. And I appreciate where you're coming from. You guarantee your work. But if you
I
don't know,
can't speak for what other people do.
no,
I
but
can only speak for me. And
I grant you.
do. Okay, so I don't know what other people do. I know there are people that are frauds. I know that. I'm not. My job is to help people in trouble. And that's what I'm really good at.
Mm-hmm.
I can't eliminate frauds. I
We
can
can't.
be the best psychic I can be because that's the purpose of my life. That's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
April 6th this year, I had quadruple bypass surgery. I knew I was having it. I didn't have a heart attack. And I worked right up until April 5th.
Well,
And
how did you know? How did you know? How did you know
what?
you were going to did you know intuitively?
Yes, I had blocked arteries. I had to have heart surgery. And I worked right up, did readings right up to the night before. And then I had a few weeks off and then a couple more weeks practice. And then I slowly started doing readings again. And for my clients, my purpose is to give service. My purpose is not to attack, arrest, accuse, judge. My purpose is to help the person in front of me. That's what I do.
And I guess that was my big question. How do we know that we're always right? For example, and I'm asking you to educate
Well,
me
you're
here on
never right. Come on, man. No one is 100% right. You're never right. I'm not yelling. I'm being expressive.
No, that's fine.
Nobody's 100% right.
Okay, and this is where my worry comes in. So, for example, early in my police career, I had a problem with psychics. Had gotten some bad information. I would work a homicide and would just get all kinds of silly information that never came out. Life changed for me. My eyes were open, and I won't bore you with that story. So I believe in the value. But the one thing I have found out, Robert, I've seen that folks that mean well, 4 different folks with the ability might give you 4 separate answers to the question. They mean well, but not all 4 people can be right. So here's my question. How do we why don't psychics all see the same thing? I mean, do you have a thought on that?
I got a really good answer for you. Because nobody sees or has the same point of view. That's the reason.
And what you went through as a youngster, I'm sure influenced how you see things today. Is that a good way to put it? Or molded you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I spent my life working on me personally, as well as, so, Larry, all I'm saying, I am concerned about what I do.
Understood.
I can be as honest as I can possibly be. I can't control whether you are or not. What I can do is be the best I can be. I take care of the person that needs my help in front of me. That's what I focus on. It's gone from that, doing readings, to finding people, working with the RCMP security service, and specifically having direct contact with the KGB agent. Yes, sir. And
I got to hear this story.
Okay.
Okay.
As well as a few years ago, I was involved in a project of a man that was dying of the most potent superbug on the planet, and he was in a coma, and I had a psychic link with him for over 8 months, and I helped find the cure to that disease. By the way, as I said, it was 100% antibiotic resistant. The book I didn't write. It was written by the epidemiologist who led the research. I mentioned in that book The Perfect Predator, I think it's 27 different times, and the book has won scientific awards and things like that. And so I focus on what I need to do. And there has never been a time that I went to a police agency or law enforcement agency and offered to give my work. The only time I've ever done it is when I've been strongly encouraged to do what they wanted me to do, or asked. I never volunteered.
But
I did have conditions, and the condition was nobody would know that a psychic was involved, and nobody would know specifically that I was involved.
Well, we're getting ready. This hour's moving fast. We're coming up on our 13 minutes, so we're gonna get back to this. I want to delve more into your work with law enforcement. I guess you're saying here the Canadian Secret Service on you. So when we'll talk more about that. So folks, stay tuned for this last section. You're going to enjoy it. Robert Lindsy Milne is my guest. See you after these messages. We are back on Paranormal Stakeout with my guest Robert Lindsy Milne, and I'd like to remind everybody, if you'd like to learn more about what I do and what my group does, check us out at IndianRiverHauntings.com or ParanormalFBI.com. You can also check us out on YouTube at Indian River Hauntings 2341 and see some of the work that we've done there. You can email me at ghostguy@paranormalstakeout.org or check out the website at paranormalstakeout.org. Most importantly, check out all the other great programming you'll see here on the X Zone Network, xzbn.net. Check out all the other great shows on here. And Robert, where can people find you?
You can find me on my website, www.robertlindsymilne.com. You can find me my podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and any other place. And I guess that's pretty much it.
You've got a podcast also, right?
It's called My Side of the Crystal Ball, and it's doing quite well. And I talk about psychic things, as well as I have been several guests on that are psychics and things like that.
Excellent. Okay, well, getting back to the our last conversation with law enforcement. Now, one of the first things that which I would see is if somebody was to come to me with information, I'd need to know how you got it, how you came up with this information. But you say law enforcement agencies came to you. Now, you mentioned you worked with the Canadian government quite a bit.
I worked for the RCMP Security Service.
And is that like the
Canadian government?
Okay.
So mid-70s. And in that time during the Cold War, there was more intelligence being passed between the American and Canadian border at Niagara Falls than anywhere in the world. The Canadians, us, had a special dispatch center in Niagara Falls, as well as the FBI did too. Anyway, on the other side, I was having an interview. My brain just got tired. I was appearing on a radio show in Ottawa in the mid 1970s, and it was a test run to see if I was good enough to do the show. I got the show, and I did that show every month for 12 years. When I got home from there, it was in the 70s, the program director said, "This man from Task News Agency wants to do an interview with you." And I said, "Leave me alone. I don't want anything to do with it." Long and short of the story is the RCMP found out that this guy tried to contact me. Then they wanted to talk to me, the Mounties, and they wanted to know why, and I didn't know. They then asked me to get involved and speak to the guy, because not only was he a journalist, he also happened to have diplomatic passport. He also had spent all of his career working in Washington, D.C., and then all of a sudden, he ended up getting transferred to Ottawa. Not a promotion. Not a promotion at all. And they thought that he was going to get shipped back to Russia. They thought that he was going to get transferred back to Russia and end up going into Siberia. Brezhnev was losing power, and he was the Brezhnev guy. And they believed that when he was reaching out, he contacted through the radio station, that he was reaching out to them, the Mounties, for help. And they thought he wanted to defect. And they came and saw me and interviewed me, and I did some psychic things, and they then asked me to go to Ottawa and agree to see the guy.
When you say psychic things, just to...
Psychic things, I did, a kind of psychic performance. I was like 25 or 26. And, here was one. They were talking about this man. I can talk about it because it's past the legal. Anyway, his name was Ivan Mironov. And when they talked about Mironov, the Mounties, I said, I thought his name was Bolitnikov. And their face turned white. And they looked at each other and then back at me, and they said, you either know something about this or you really are psychic. So that's the type of stuff that I did. They wanted me to meet him. I agreed. And the next time I went to Ottawa, I met with him, and they prepared me. And the only time ever in my career I allowed myself to be interfered with outside information. So they gave me a dossier and gave me information about the guy. And when I was alone with him doing the reading, I found out that information was incorrect. So I just simply ad-libbed from there. And they wanted me to say something like, because the guy was in trouble, something like, sometimes we get into trouble, or sometimes we get, we get stuck, and we don't think we have any friends, but we do, and you have friends, something quite like that. And I was, I'd been with the guy for about an hour, and I had to say something like whatever those words were. When I said them, he looked at me, stood up, turned around, walked right out the door, didn't say goodbye, nothing, just walked away and left me there. The room that I was in had two adjoining rooms, and it was all wired up in 1970s technology. And the guys came in the room and they said, "Oh, great going, Robert." And I said, I screwed it up. He walked out. And I said, "Not necessarily. Anytime they get confronted or a suggestion of defection, that's how they handle it. They just get up and walk away." And he said, "You might never know what happened, and we might not ever know." I then got a call from the guy from the RCMP, and he said, "Are there any other skills that you have?" He said, "We have this thing called dead letter boxes. And that's where a dead letter box is, where you look where they pass information." And they said, "Do you think you could find them?" And I said, "Maybe." And I went down to Niagara Falls, looked at some maps of the area and pointed to some areas. Then we went out in the park, and I found one that day. And over the next 2 years, I went down to Niagara Falls every month and did that, looking for the dead letter boxes. I'd been doing it for about 6 months. and we were out in the park, and the guy said to me, "Do you remember your Russian friend?" And I said, "Yeah," and he said, "It worked out." And I said, "What? What? How did it work out?" He said, "It worked out," and he never said another word after that. So I don't really know what happened, but it worked out.
How many years did you actually work for? And when you say the RCMP, that is the government, the federal government.
It's federal. It's the FBI version. It's the Canadian version of the FBI.
Oh, I'm very, very familiar with them.
Okay, so I worked undercover. I wasn't employed by the government.
Right. Okay. How long did you do that?
2 years.
2 years. Now, you also helped on some missing persons cases?
Oh, several. The first one was early when I was touring, and I was in a small town in Barrie, Ontario. I used to go there the first show of a tour, and there had been this this woman, a young woman married with a child, a really high class kind of woman, and she had a day off. She was going to the hairdresser, dropped her child off at the babysitters, went to the mall where the hairstylist was, and no one ever saw her again. And they couldn't find her. And several months later, I was in Barrie, did a radio show and was doing readings. And late at night, 10 o'clock at night, the police, because I was working late that night, the police knocked at my door. I'm sorry, it was earlier. It was around 6 o'clock. They knocked at my door and they said they wanted to talk with me. It screwed up that reading for sure. And they told me about this woman, and they asked me, and they told me that they wanted me to see if I could find her. And I said I didn't want to do it. And they said, if you don't want to do it, you can't work here and we'll stop you. And I said, okay, but let me come back and see me tonight to do it. And they said, okay. And we came back, and I went down to the police station that night, and we looked at maps of the area. And I said, but first of all, I have to tell you, you're not going to find her until way into March. And this would have been in the fall. It would have been like October. And I said, you'll find her, and how you'll be able to know is by an old train trestle that says 1910. And I saw it and sensed it. And they insisted that night that we go out into the fields and look. And they weren't taking me very seriously. And we were driving around in the countryside in the dark. And then we went down this road, and there was this train trestle that said 1910. And then they took me a bit more seriously. And the next day they did this big search in the area, and they didn't find anything. And in the springtime.
So that one did not get solved then.
It did get solved when I said it would be in March. I said I said it would be in the springtime, and I was doing the work in October, in that night and day.
Gotcha. Well, a lot of satisfaction helping folks with closure on things like that. So I know they appreciated all of your help on that one. In our last minute or so, Robert, was there anything you'd like to share with the audience to maybe as a final note?
Regardless of what you think or feel right now, regardless of your opinion, no matter what, just do nice things, be kind. You can always do that.
Yeah, and those are well-spoken words. One of the things that I enjoy about having folks like you on the show is giving folks a taste of what individuals with your talents can do to help. So we do appreciate you being here tonight. And folks, I want you to know that I appreciate all of you being here tonight. Interesting show, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. So until then, love your family, hug your kids, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you on the other side. Have a good night, folks.